500 miles, a journey that has challenged race drivers for years, a special distance. On the high banks at Michigan International, 500 miles will take its toll on the machines. At 230 miles an hour, it will stress the best. There is no room for error. Combined with the wide track, 500 miles can produce spectacular racing. The long journey will wring emotion from the participants. To win at this distance in an IndyCar is very special. In May, Jimmy Vasser was involved in this melee on the start. The race was stopped. His team pulled out the backup car. 500 miles later, Jimmy Vasser took the win. It's time again. The IndyCars are ready for the Michigan 500. From the Irish hills of southern Michigan, the IndyCars are ready for their annual running of the Michigan 500 at Michigan International Speedway. As the cars sit ready on the pit road to fire their engines, we'll take a look at the points, which, take a look there, Jimmy Vasser continues to hold on to the lead despite some disappointing results in the past few races. But those disappointing results have closed this points battle up, and it is terrific. There are many other stories here today. Let's begin with Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, for Jimmy Vasser, it's the second time in 1996 that he has found his way to a pole position for a race at Michigan International Speedway. He gathered in one additional point in the chase for the point standings. How did he do it? Well, he did it by maintaining and managing his tire stagger properly for the qualifying effort. But the key guy that will challenge Jimmy Vasser for the points is directly behind in row number 2, right, Gary Gerold?
Indeed he is. The immediate challenge comes from the number 4 spot. This is Al Unser Jr. with his best qualifying effort of the year. Keep in mind also, he scored more points on ovals this year than any other driver. Next to him, a Hogan Penske teammate, Emerson Fittipaldi. Not only an outstanding qualifying effort, but 11 years ago this day, he won his very first IndyCar race on this racetrack. Both drivers encouraged because back under here, they've got a new upgrade from Mercedes-Benz. They think it's worth 20, 25 extra horsepower. They think the reliability is better. They know they can contend on this particular day. Also, one teammate missing from these guys today, Paul Tracy. Big crash in practice yesterday, turn 4. Didn't get a chance to qualify. Spent the night in the hospital. Chip fracture of the 6th vertebrae. Soft tissue injury to his mid and lower back. He'll consult with Dr. Terry Trammell on Wednesday in Indianapolis. They'll determine when he next can go racing. No Paul Tracy today in the field. Paul?
Well, 500 miles at Michigan International. Danny, you've driven it. It's a tough, long day.
Well, this is one of the toughest days you're going to experience. The high banks here, you're in those corners for a long time, pulling a lot of G's in there, tough on the body. You're running 3 abreast, sometimes 2 abreast, and the big thing is it's all over 230 miles an hour. This is tough on the driver, and it's a hard 500 miles.
Well, they have started the engines here. Danny, on this 500 miles, do you try and conserve yourself during that run?
Well, you don't really conserve yourself as much as you conserve the engine. This thing, you can run it wide open all the way around, but the engine will not live for 500 miles like that. You've got to breathe it some, so you got to be a little bit easier on the equipment than on yourself.
You may notice that some of the flags are here today at Haas staff. 2 weeks ago, the racing community lost 2 very good friends. Driver Jeff Krosnoff and a longtime dedicated corner worker, Gary Ovren. He suffered fatal injuries in that accident at the end of the Toronto race. Now, Jeff, in the very, very short time he was with us, had touched all of our lives. He gave us a lifetime of friendship.
I can hear her heartbeat from 1,000 miles. Yeah, the heavens open every time she smiles. And when I come to her, that's where I belong. Yet I run into her like a river song. She gave me love, 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 crazy. She gave me love, 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 crazy. She got a fine sense of humor when I'm feeling low down. Yeah, when I come to her, when the sun goes down. Take away my trouble, take away my grief, take away
Sports coverage of the Michigan 500. Brought to you by Budweiser, official sponsor of the 1996 U.S. Olympic team. This Bud's for you. Bosch Platinum, the ultimate spark plug. Toyota Motorsports, our minds are always racing. And Firestone, America's tire since 1900.
They're already rolling on the parade laps. We'll take a look at the starting field as they line up in rows of 3 on the pole. Jimmy Vasser, the new track record holder, won the U.S. 500 from the pole in May. Alongside in the middle, Alex Zanardi, who led just half of the U.S. 500 before engine trouble. And outside, rookie Greg Moore, as the rookie makes his first ever start from the front row. In the second row, Al Unser Jr., who won the fastest 500-mile race ever here in 1990. And Emerson Fittipaldi, his first career win, as Gary told you, came 11 years ago to the day here. And Adrian Fernandez is outside. He scored his first career win 2 weeks ago in Toronto. In row 3, it's Scott Pruitt. His only career win came here last year. Andre Ribeiro. Both of his career wins have come on ovals. And Bobby Rahal, the most experienced driver in the field with 14 starts at this track. In row 4, it's Parker Johnstone, last year's pole sitter. In the middle is Brian Herta. And outside is Michael Andretti, one of only 2 drivers who have won more than one Michigan 500. In row 5, Mauricio Guzman, Stefan Johansson, and Raul Boesel. In row 6, Jill DeFerrin, who yesterday, as car owner Jim Hall announced his retirement at the end of the season. And Davy Jones replacing Eddie Lawson and Eliseo Salazar. The 7th row, Christian Fittipaldi, Hiro Matsushita, and Mark Blundell. In row 8, Roberto Moreno, Juan Manuel Fangio, and P.J. Jones. And alone in row 9 is Robbie Gordon, who starts last because he changed to his backup car after this morning's practice session. So that's the grid as they line up. And let's remember that in May, on May 26th, Jimmy Vasser had the pole, but the start here was less than pretty. Here was the way it looked as they came down to the green, and suddenly everybody was in trouble. And as a result, they stopped the race. Many of the drivers, proper to the rules, were able to pull out their backup cars, and Jimmy Vasser took his backup car to a victory here. So that was the way they started last time at this track. Danny, what would you think of something like that?
Well, it's unfortunate that it happened right before the start, but those guys have put that behind them. They even had to put it behind them that day because they all got in their spare cars and went again. But it was just 2 guys getting tangled up at the front and turned it sideways with all the field. It was inevitable that you were going to have that big of a crash. As they move on to the backstretch on the pace lap, we look at today's stories, beginning with the A's, and looks like Stefan Johansson may be having a problem smoking there. Attrition. Of course, that's always the story here. That very, very close point fight, and with that puff of smoke, the engine story may already be plain. Pace car comes off of the course. As they accelerate, they're really spread out. We'll see whether or not they actually get a green flag on this one. No, it's a wave off. I'm sorry to interrupt you there, Paul, but I was going to say they're just way out of line for that far away. They were back in turn 3 and everybody was split up. Now they might have done that. Sometimes a driver will do that just to get a yellow for either a fuel reason or because he wants to get more temperature in his tires, or he wants to take a chance that maybe they will give the green.
Or is it jitters from the last time they started here?
Well, I don't think so. These guys are experienced. Don't forget, they had that crash on the first attempt last time. Then they went back and started an hour later, and everything was okay. They had a good, clean start. Those guys have forgotten pretty much about that.
So they'll come back into formation once again.
This is kind of the position that the starter wants to see everybody in. One other thing, that race, even though it was a yellow flag and was not a green, has now officially started. That lap counts as now we're 249.
And again, Jimmy Vasser picks the pace up way early, over in 3. They string out. We'll see if they get the flag this time. Front row. That's a green, you bet. Pole sitter leads him across the line, and we are racing here. As Zanardi falls in, look at Emerson Fittipaldi making a good move. And at the front of the battle, he touched into the wall.
He touched Greg Moore.
Crash.
He touched Greg Moore right there. He just came down on him a little bit.
Emerson was really flying as he came through turn 1. Devastating damage to that race car, and of course we go back under yellow. Keeping an eye on Fittipaldi to make sure he is okay. and make sure that everybody else got through clean. We didn't see any other car get sideways as a result of it. But right here on turn 2, Fittipaldi touches tires, gets into the wall, and actually slid from the turn well down the racetrack and sits on the exit to turn 2. So under yellow, with a lap and a half complete here in the Michigan 500. We'll go back and see if we can determine how this happened. Fittipaldi was the red car, definitely making a move high of more. And I think you're right. He just touched tires. The fire there, of course, is oil when you smash it
right
like
here.
that. Yeah,
see,
there it is.
He just clipped Greg Moore. That right there is an oil flash fire where a broken oil line or something and dumped it out. That is not fuel. See, he goes right around him on the outside. See your red car up there just in front. Moore looked like he moved up maybe a hair. They're in there racing just inches apart, and he just touched, and that's all it takes. See him down here? Greg goes up just a little bit.
Yeah,
Emerson's coming down. See the piece of bodywork flying in the air right over that car. Boy, and I tell you, they were at the front of the field. The really lucky part is the rest of the field didn't get involved in that.
Well, there is Carl Hogan, who is the owner of Emerson Fittipaldi's car. You can see he's frustrated and angry with that situation. We'll check on Emerson, and we'll be back.
Summer's gonna get a heck of a lot hotter. NASCAR's best hit the bricks Saturday on a Wide World Special.
We are back at Michigan International Speedway, the Michigan 500, which is under yellow. It started under yellow, went to green for about half of a lap, and then Emerson Fittipaldi touched wheels with Greg Moore. Now, the report from the scene is that there is not a life-threatening injury there. In fact, we saw a moment ago Emerson Fittipaldi was conscious and was actually talking to and aiding his rescuers. Now, the rest of the field circulates behind the race leader, Jimmy Vasser, and he, of course, lines up behind the pace car. Danny, this is what happened.
Yes, right down here on the bottom in that light blue car is Greg Moore. And above him, right up here, is Emerson Fittipaldi. And then they go moving. Emerson's got the momentum. He's got a great start going. Greg's a little slow. Emerson's passing him around the outside. Right here, stop right there. They just touch right in there. Emerson clips Greg's front of his car with his rear, and it just turns him enough, and he gets up into the wall. That flame that you see there is an oil fire. That's not a fuel fire, and he stayed in there. The amazing part is, of course, is that nobody else got involved.
So we take a look here at Greg Moore's car to see, it's difficult to see on this side, but what damage there may be as a result of that. Gary Gerould is down in the pits. Gary?
Carl Hogan, I know you're concerned. Did you have any conversation with Emerson on the radio?
Well, not at first he didn't answer, and then finally he answered me. He said, "Get me out of here." So it sounded like from his voice it was pretty strong, so we're hoping he's okay.
I know that's the primary concern, but what great disappointment for a team. You're so primed, so pumped. The optimism was very high in this camp this weekend, it felt to me.
Yeah, we were pretty conservative all weekend, and we were running good, and we felt good, and if the replay is what it shows, someone hit us, and it just really perturbs me.
Thank you, Carl.
A very concerned Carl Hogan. He and his driver, Emerson Fittipaldi, share a very close friendship. Now, they do have Emerson out of the car, and again, we're talking a non-life-threatening injury here, and it may even upgrade from that. Jackaroo?
Well, Paul, another concern down here is the ever-changing weather here at Michigan International Speedway. Now, here's what's happened. There is a forecast for some isolated showers around, maybe 2 hours from now. Here's what Roger Penske has done, though. He has heard about this and has dispatched his pilots to the airport. They're going up in the airplane, and kind of like a hurricane chaser, Roger's going to have his pilots go chase this weather out, map it out, and try and determine just exactly how much time before the possibility exists that it would rain here. It may come back to report, too, that it's not going to rain here all day. But these are some of the high-tech nuances that a team like